We are talking Hollow from 2011, also known as Dunwich, and this is directed by Michael Axelgaard, and it's a found footage movie described by some as the British Blair Witch, just because probably it's a found footage, and that's probably about it, to be fair. Anyway, let's talk about the story. It focuses on two couples who go to a remote part of Suffolk in the UK, in fact the town of Dunwich, and they are there because one of the group's grandfather used to be a minister there, and they have an old house that needs kind of sorting out. So we have these two couples effectively kind of go for this somewhat kind of weekend away and having a look through this old house and etc. Now there seems to be this strange tree, this large ancient tree which is with a kind of hollow centre, which has the kind of the locals a little spooked. It's got the kind of local folklore about it, and the girl whose grandfather was from this area has been told stories about it, so they're all a little bit kind of sort of fearful of this particular tree and the legend that's kind of surrounds it. Inevitably, strange things kind of start to happen. There seems to be cries in the nights, spooky sounds. There seems to be lots of evidence of people effectively kind of ending up committing suicide on or by this kind of tree, and it seems to be drawing these kind of people in, and may well be the end of them. You'll have to watch the movie and find out. In fact, you won't, because it literally tells you in the first scene that there was 4 bodies found right away. So, you know, great. Okay, so let's talk about the Hollow. What works in this movie's favour? Okay, now it is a very generic found footage movie. Let me just say that. I don't think this really stands out from the crowd in any way, but it's serviceable. I think the acting is fair. I think some of the way that the characters are written is a little poor, if you ask me, and I'll come on to a bit more about that in a minute. But the acting was fair. One thing where I will give props to is some of the kind of the sound design here. I thought the sounds of animals and various kind of things crying out in the night was quite effective. They've got kind of good use of kind of rope sounds, that's what I'll kind of say. That was quite good. And there are a couple of, I would say, building up of spooky kind of sequences where you think something might happen. There might be some type of kind of presence there. Something's kind of going on. You know, often it doesn't lead to much, I'll say, but there is a little bit of kind of building of the tension at the very kind of least. And I think the mythology is interesting. This kind of ancient, natural occurrence that may have this kind of evil that kind of emanates from it for reasons. I thought it was, at least an interesting kind of idea. And I suppose that obviously found footage enthusiasts might like this kind of somewhat generic story, because it follows very similar beats to a lot of found footage movies. So if you just like that found footage horror genre, this one doesn't stray too far from the path, and I'm going to give you some examples of things that kind of I feel were a little bit overdone in just a moment. But yeah, it's very much a by the numbers found footage movie. But let's talk about that, and let's talk about maybe why this movie, I think, for me at least, wasn't a particularly strong found footage movie. So I think the writing, for instance, is quite poor here. There's no real reason for these people to be filming, for a start. At least in, for example, the Blair Witch, they are there trying to document something, so they have a reason to be filming. In this one, there doesn't really seem to be any reason. At the end, they are using the camera for a light, and I understand that, and that's fine, but for the rest of it, it doesn't seem there's any reason for it. And there are particular instances where I feel this movie really needed to have a reason why people were filming, because it just doesn't make sense in certain sequences. I get if something spooky is happening on screen, you might try and film it, but there's a lot of generic stuff which is being filmed for some reason. So that didn't really kind of get you that sort of setup at least. Now, one of the things I feel found footage movies do a lot is lots of arguing, and it's a trope that, you know, many people use in found footage movie, and it's frankly very, very commonplace and very annoying. And these people argue a lot. There's also lots of women crying all the time. Another kind of like trope. It's just lots of arguing, lots of backstabbing, lots of kind of friends being, you know, not too friendly, shall we say, behind each other's back. Like women getting upset and crying, men kind of storming off and getting angry. It's lots of that. So it's filled up with this kind of stuff. So the other thing this movie does, which I feel is a little bit irritating at times, is lots of like spooky sequences that ultimately lead to nothing. At the end, we kind of see, I guess, something, but it's not all that, if I'm honest. But there is lots of like running around in the dark, being hysterical about like a coat hanging up or something, or fox sounds. I mean, you're in the woods, for Christ's sake. So it's not exactly high drama. The characters are, for the most part, pretty unlikable. And if you're going to have a lot of time here with just character moments, make your characters likeable, make them interesting. Don't make them all a-holes, which I feel this movie pretty much does. And there are some just very silly moments, you know, especially towards the end of the movie. Without kind of sounding kind of too spoilery, we have a clear danger. We have some characters that know that there is a danger outside of this car. There's something out there. But one of them wants to wind down the windows because the light is reflecting. Who would do that? It's just stupid. We've got another woman who seems to be asthmatic, but she never seems to have her inhaler on her. It's always somewhere else. This gives you that kind of that drama. Why, if you're that bad, surely it would be on you at all times. And let's talk about spoilers, without talking about spoilers, but literally the first scene in the movie is 4 bodies were found, so thinking, brilliant. So we know exactly where this movie is going to end up. I mean, I know that's kind of the conceit with found footage movies, but sometimes they'll do something different. Not in this one, and it tells you right away. So, you know, that's not a spoiler because it's literally the first scene in the movie. So it's just a very, very by the numbers found footage movie, which I think I get the impression that just the filmmakers here haven't really tried to do anything outside of the ordinary here. It's just, maybe they haven't seen many, oh, this will be a great idea. This is something that, you know, people haven't seen before. It is. We've seen it plenty of times before. Multiple times. And it doesn't stand out. You've got to do something a little bit different. Anyway, it's not terrible, but it's so vanilla. It's so, like, uninteresting. The reveal when we do have something, it's a little affecting, but I feel it may be a little bit disappointing for some. I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 10. It's just a throwaway movie, which I don't think elevates anything that's in it at any point, and I think squanders quite a neat idea at least. Anyway, have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.